Hello, I'm David Breeden. I'm the senior minister at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, and this is coffee. Yep, I've grabbed my coffee and wisdom, and we do hope we get a hold of a little bit of wisdom as we go along considering theological and philosophical questions from a humanist perspective. This week, we've been looking at antinomianism. Oh my gosh, what the heck is that? Well, if you haven't heard of it, you may be one. It is Greek. The word anti is in there, against, and nomos, Greek for law. So it is against law, not against the law, against law. Or if you put the in, you're changing the meaning yet again. It's a heresy among most Christians. Antinomianism, just to remind you from Tuesday, is any view which rejects laws or legalism and argues against moral, religious, or social norms, or is at least considered to do so. The term has both religious and secular meanings. This week, we're taking a look at the uh, religious ones. Next week, we'll consider some secular meanings. Now, to get more specific from the Christian perspective, antinomianism is a doctrine according to which Christians are freed by grace from the necessity of obeying the Mosaic law. That would be the law in that case. The antinomians rejected the very notion of obedience as legalistic. To them, the good life flowed from the inner working of the Holy Spirit. I mentioned Ann Hutchinson last time. I want to look a little more closely because she was the center of the antinomian controversy. She held discussions of the day's sermon in her Puritan home back in the Massachusetts Bay Colony on Sunday afternoons. But soon she was being accused of preaching something that was, of course, forbidden for women to do in those days. And not only was she preaching, but she was accusing most of the local Puritan ministers of preaching works rather than grace. Okay, she had this to say: one may preach a covenant of grace more clearly than another, but when they preach a covenant of works for salvation, that is not truth. Okay, so she is against the local Puritan ministers who are preaching about works rather than grace. Another phrase from her: do you think it not lawful for me to teach women? And why do you call me to teach the court? So when she was called on the carpet and questioned by the Puritan authorities, she said that, you don't want me teaching or preaching, so why do you want me to show up here and explain myself? She also said, but now having seen him, which is invisible, that would be God, I fear not what man can do unto me. And that kind of discussion, those kind of sayings are going to get her into trouble. Hutchinson appeared to be claiming direct messages from God, which was a big no no. At that time. So, yes, antinomianism is a heresy among most Christians, but what is really at stake? What is really at stake here? So Anne Hutchinson, who lived 1591, she was born in England and died in the colonies in 1643. She was tried, banished from the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and removed from membership in her church, all because she questioned what the male ministers of her time were doing about this question of grace and works. Well, where does this all come from? Well, this is Paul in Second Corinthians, the third chapter, verse 7. Now, if the ministry of death, chiseled in letters on stone tablets, ding, ding, of course, that's the Ten Commandments, came in glory so that the people of Israel could not gaze at Moses' face because of the glory of his face, a glory now set aside, how much more will the ministry of the Spirit, capital S Spirit here, the Holy Spirit, come in glory? For if there was glory in the ministry of condemnation, much more does the ministry of justification abound in glory. Indeed, what once had glory has lost its glory because of a greater glory. For if what was set aside came through glory, much more has the permanent come in glory. What's that all about? It's all about how the old covenant, that would be Mosaic law, is out the window. The new covenant, that would be the good message of Jesus Christ, is now the covenant that we make, and it's a much more glorious one, says Paul here. But what is he really saying about this 10 commandments, the law? In 2 Corinthians chapter 3, not that we are competent of ourselves to claim anything as coming from us. Our competence is from God, who has made us competent to be ministers of a new covenant, not of letter, but of spirit. For the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. So there you have it, ministers of a new covenant, not of letter, but of spirit. All right. The spirit gives life, whereas the letter kills. A new covenant, not of letter, but of spirit, for the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. You get where Paul is going with that. And yes, this is where we get the term letter of the law and spirit of the law. Letter of the law in this term, in antinomian terms, is the 10 Commandments, and the other laws of Judaism, the spirit of the spirit of the law then is the post New Testament, the Christian scriptures, and the very good news that is coming to us now from this Trinitarian God. That's the whole point of the idea here. Now, next week, I want to flip the page and think a little bit more about this, because even though it seems like a kind of arcane concept, and we don't hear it a lot, but actually it reveals a lot about what's going on in Christianity through the ages, and it does bear some looking at. A big thank you for financial support from Anita Martinez and Marcy Lessler and Rin Nippling. Thanks a whole lot. Join me on Friday live at 9 a.m. Central Time on Zoom. If you would like that Zoom link, all you have to do is email me, minister@firstunitarian.org, and yeah, make yourself some coffee and join in our conversation. And then we have Coffee and Wisdom on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. Central Time. Thank you so much for joining in, and we'll be seeing you.